This was the scene in the South Asian country Myanmar, or Burma, which is controlled by a military regime. Peaceful marchers were following the religious monks' lead of protest. Some were speaking out against the government, while others were pro-democracy. However, the military fired shots into the crowd, killing at least 9 as people fled. People who didn't run fast enough were searched, loaded into trucks, and even beaten by soldiers, some who were not in uniform. This supports people's claims that soldiers were in the crowd in disguise. These pictures were smuggled out of the tightly isolated and controlled country, showing how far the government will go to crush a pro-democracy movement. Sam Hamilton, World News, Bangkok.
For the second time in the month, Republicans blocked the Democratic attempt to change war policy, which would give soldiers more rest time between deployment periods. Senator Webb, who proposed this policy, fell short just 4 votes, marking another victory for the Bush administration. Frustrated Democrats made accusations, accusing Republicans of abdicating their constitutional responsibility to look out for the well-being of the military, and that they are more willing to protect the president rather than the military. To counter this, the Republicans accused the Democrats of using this policy as a backdoor attempt to pull troops out of Iraq. David Garner, World News, Washington.
Fred Thompson is the newest candidate in the presidential race. The former senator and actor announced his entering the race just past September. He has participated in his first debate and held his ground, but many people have been wondering and been concerned about his funding for his campaign.
That Fred Thompson has a lot of pressure on him because the expectation is so high. He got into the campaign kind of late, made his announcement, of course, on Jay Leno's show, made a big splash. He's a big Hollywood star, but really how much money he's raised will really tell people how serious he is as a candidate.
As you can see on the graph, even though he hasn't raised as much money as Hillary Clinton, he does have the second highest amount of money within the Republican candidates. And for now, he's still on the campaign trail trying to get more voters, just a little more caught up than he was before. Gary Johnson, World News, on the campaign trail.
Show the video, man, your elephant.
Gina 6 caused an ethical issue to arise about the civil liberty and fair treatment under law. It all started when an African American student sat under the supposed white-only tree. The next day, nooses were hanging from that same tree. This is believed to have caused a spark which eventually led to the assault of Justin Barker, a Caucasian. However, Parish District Attorney Reed Walters says that the nooses have nothing to do with the case. Michael Bells, one of the primary accused, was charged with attempted murder. After hearing this case, thousands of people from all over the country came to support the Gina 6. A march like this hasn't happened since the civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King Jr. The marchers thought it was unjust because the charges seemed way too high for what occurred. I talked to one of the marchers.
It's a culmination of several things. It's been going on for so many years, and now this is the icing on the cake. It's one last threat to justice everywhere.
But now, the charges of attempted murder have been dropped, most likely due to the controversy that rose from this issue. Michael Bell was one of the last to be released from the charge of attempted murder. He was released on bail on September 27th. David Knight at World News, Gina, Louisiana. The political cartoon refers to the O.J. Simpson's case. The O.J. Simpson's case refers to the once football player O.J. Simpson who broke into a hotel. His defense was that he was going to retake the sports memorabilia, which he claims was his. The cartoon, on the other hand, is referring to how Bush may want to wage war against Iran in order to stop the so-called threat there. The memorabilia represents the threat, and Bush going there to retake it is how he is going to suppress the so-called threat. This political cartoon represents some of Bush's policies. You can tell it is Bush because the character has long ears, a defining characteristic of him in political cartoons. The first picture depicts many negative points of Bush's presidency. Then, the second picture shows that he may be remembered for denying health insurance to children. This is because he vetoed Congress's bill to increasing funding for S-CHIP, which is the state's children's health insurance program. Though it is unlikely that this is the defining moment of his presidency, it is an important one nonetheless. This is Mark Summit, World News political analyst.
Recently, a rash of recalls of toys made in China have affected much of the marketplace. From Thomas Trains to Polly Pocket to Tickle Me Elmo, lead paint and magnet problems have made many parents worried about their children's safety. Magnets on toys, such as these Batman toys, can fall off and be swallowed. Many parents are wondering where to get Christmas gifts this year.
There's absolutely no excuse for lead to be found in toys entering this country.
With 90% of toys imported, toys made in USA are becoming increasingly less common. We still have Slinky and wood toys, but they do not interest as many kids in the new computer generation. Company Connects is adding shifts at their factories, anticipating more Christmas interest. Only time will tell the size and impact of these recalls. Ivan Hiding, World News.
The long-standing rivalry between Pepsi and Coke became physical on October 15th at a Walmart in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Pepsi and Coke delivery men started out bickering at each other while they were unloading their loads. This is what a local policewoman had to say.
Came over and got into a physical confrontation with him and struck him a few times. He hit him in the face, gave him a black eye, and apparently broke his nose.
Both men are believed to have tried to run over each other with pallets before starting their fight. Competition is fierce. Locally, Pepsi does better, while Coke does better nationally. Pepsi says their guy was canned. Joe Derrick, World News, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.